All right. This is continued now. I think today is the more difficult day because this is unfamiliar stuff. Okay, you guys probably aren't familiar with this because it relates a lot to businesses. Okay, but if you listen and follow along, it's not that. The math part isn't hard. It's actually understanding what insurance does. Okay, coinsurance. Okay, when you sign a policy, okay, for a business, a lot of times the insurance companies put a clause on there that's called the coinsurance clause. Okay, and it's a clause that protects the insurance companies from underclaimed businesses. Okay, now what does that mean? Okay, here's how to find. Here's the formula. Okay, but what does this statement mean? Okay, suppose I own a business. Here it is, and it's a $1 million business. Okay, that's yes, like $1 million business. Now suppose, obviously, to insure a $1 million business, it's going to cost a lot of money, isn't it? Okay. Now suppose that I decide, you know what, I don't want to cover my entire business with insurance. I only want a face value of $750,000. Okay. So when I buy my insurance, I tell them I just want a face value of $750,000 because I don't want to pay such a hefty premium. Okay? So what they do is they put a clause in there that says, okay, that's fine, but if you don't buy a policy that covers at least maybe 80%, okay, of your entire replacement cost, your $1 million business, we don't have to cover the entire partial damage. Now, that might not make sense here, and I'll show you what I mean. Suppose that I have fire in my $1 million business, okay, and there it is, it's wrecked now, and I'm missing this part of my $1 million business, and I file an insurance claim for a fire, okay, and we determine that the replacement cost of this portion of my building is going to be $250,000, okay. Obviously, it's not the entire $750,000. However, I still have to, it's a $250,000 loss. The insurance company says, well, if you didn't buy a policy big enough to cover 80% of the entire business, we don't have to cover the entire partial loss. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm going to say that again. If you didn't buy an insurance policy to cover your entire business, to replace your entire business, once you have a partial loss, we don't have to cover the entire partial loss. Okay? They're saying you have to buy at least, if it's 80% coinsurance clause, you have to buy at least $800,000, okay, because that's 80% of $1 million, right? Your policy has to be at least $800,000 if you want us to cover the entire partial loss. Does that make sense? They don't have to pay the whole thing. They have to pay the same percentage that you bought. Okay, we're going to do an example on the next problem. But does anybody have any questions on that? That's kind of difficult to understand. Once we do an example, it'll be easier. Here's the formula. The amount the insurance company will pay on the partial loss is equal to the amount of the loss, so the $250,000, times the amount of the policy, which my policy was $750. Okay, this was just the 80%, divided by the percent of replacement cost. Okay, 80%, whatever your percent is, so this would be 80% of the replacement cost. So divided by, in this case, $800,000. 750 divided by 800 times 250 in order to cover. That's what the insurance company, we'll do that, and we'll decide what the insurance company would have paid for my $250,000 loss.
You lost in the
okay, so I would take the amount of the policy. I bought a $750,000 policy. Okay, 80% of the replacement cost of the entire building. So what I do is I take 80%, since that's the part in the clause, because I made it up. Okay, that's a normal clause. Some of them have 85, 90. You can buy different. But 80% of the $1 million replacement cost, which we already determined is $80,000 or $800,000. Excuse me. So the amount of the loss was $250. So they're just going to pay a part, the same part that you bought. Okay, so you have to take your $250. What do you get when you divide $750 by 80,000? Or 800,000. 750 divided by 800,000. What do you get? 750,000, or if you put 0.75 divided by 0.8, what do you get? 0.9375. Okay, 0.9375. So they're going to pay 93.75% of the $250,000, because that's the percent, okay, that you bought. Okay. So how much are they going to pay of that $250,000? You take your 250, multiply it by 0.9375. So they're going to send you a check to replace, and you're going to you only get $234,000. Okay. So what do you have to come up with? What's the expense that you have to come up with? How do I find that? Yeah, you just take your 250 and you subtract out the amount the insurance company gave you. Any questions? Let's do another thing.
Hold on. Wait, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
You guys ready? Okay. So we're going to talk about Joe O'Neill. This is an example in your book. Okay, I made that other one, but this is an example in your book. Joe O'Neill owns an industrial building valued $760,000. Her fire insurance policy has an 80% coinsurance clause and a face value of $570,000. The building suffers a fire loss of $144,000. Find the amount of the loss that the insurance company will pay and the amount that O'Neill must pay. Okay? Well, in order to find the amount the insurance company is going to pay, I just use my formula, okay, that we had from the page before, this one right here. I'm going to take, to get the amount the insurance will take, I'm going to take the amount of the loss. What's the amount of the loss in the fire? Right, $144,000. So I'm going to put $144,000 here, times, on the top is the amount of my policy. What's the face value of my policy? $570,000. I got that right here. Face value divided by the 80% of the cost, or the actual replacement cost of the entire building. What is her building valued? $760,000. And there's my formula. Once I solve this, like I said, the math isn't that hard. It's figuring out which numbers go where. Okay? So if I take 570 and divide it by, well, I don't know what you get, 80% of 760 is what?
608,000.
608,000. Okay? So I take 570,000 and divide it by 608, and what percentage are they going to pay?
93.
Still 93.75. 0.9375. Okay, times 144,000. So what amount is the insurance company going to pay? 135,000. Okay, so if the insurance company covers this, how much are you going to have to come up with to replace that part of the building? 9,000. You're going to have to take the difference of the entire cost of the loss, and that's what you're going to have to cover. So you're going to have to cover $9,000. We'll say Joe's cost. That's the name, Joe O'Neill.
Blank piece of paper. And that's weird.
Any questions? Coinsurance. You guys got that part? Okay, we're going to move on to the next one.
Hey, his is right. How come they choose mine?
Multiple carriers. Insurance coverage is divided among multiple insurance companies. Okay? Suppose that I have, a lot of times this, okay, let me ask you. My thoughts together here. When would this happen? Why would I have multiple companies cover one building or one business?
They're invested in it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe you have a big building and an insurance company won't cover something or a certain part of it, so maybe you have to go to something else. Okay? Another reason is suppose I own a $1.5 billion business. Okay? They're out there. There's not many. Okay? Apple. Okay? Or however much they're worth. Okay? Those companies that you buy stock in. Okay? GM. Whatever. And you own all these buildings everywhere. Okay? Or you own the one huge building and it's worth $4 million. Okay? And you go to the insurance company to buy an insurance policy. Do you think they're going to give you a replacement of $4 million? One insurance company, if you go, your building burns down and they have to write you a check for $4 million, that's probably going to put a pretty big dent in their funds, right? They're not going to write a check for $4 million. They're going to say, we can't cover that whole thing because that will really hurt our company. So what we're going to do is we will cover $1 million or $900,000. We'll write you a $900,000 policy, okay? So then you don't have enough to cover your entire building. So you go to another insurance company and you say, I have this $5 million, $4 million building. I have this. How much insurance can you give me? Okay, so you go to that company. They say, okay, we'll give you $2 million. So then you're like, okay, now I have $3 million. I still need an extra $2. So you go find another insurance company that'll cover the last $2. So you have multiple carriers on this one building, and you have to pay 3 different premiums because they won't cover. One company won't cover the whole part, everything. They won't cover certain parts of it or whatever. You have multiple carriers on the same business or same building. Got it? Does that make sense? Now, once there's a claim, suppose half of your building burns down, and there's a claim, does one insurance company pay, or do all 3? All 3. They all 3 pay the fractional part that they own, or that they covered, that they gave you. So my $1 million out of 5, they pay 1/5 of the cost. Okay, the insurance company that paid $3 million, okay, or $2 million, or whatever they paid, they're going to pay 2/5 of the $5 million cost, or whatever, 2/5 of whatever the cost is. They're all going to pay the same amount, the fractional amount that they own on the building as to the loss of the building. Okay, and we're going to do an example of that if that doesn't make sense to you. Okay, that's basically what this says. Each insurance company pays its fractional portion of the total claim on the property equal to its pro-rate share of total coverage. That means this. Okay? Suppose I have this enormous company, and it's called World Recycling Conglomerate, WRC. And it has an insured loss of $1.8 million while having insurance coverage greater than coinsurance requirement, meaning we don't have to worry about coinsurance for this one. Okay, that's what we just talked about before in the example before. They have enough coverage to cover everything. They have at least 80%, so they don't have to worry about, the insurance company only paying parts of it. The insurance is divided among Company A with a $5.9 million coverage, Company B with a $4.425 million coverage, and Company C with a $1.475 million coverage. Find the amount of loss paid by each of the insurance companies. So my World Recycling Conglomerate, we lost $1.8 million in a fire. Okay, and here I have 3 different companies that are covering my building. How much is each company going to give me? Okay, to cover that $1.8 million. Here's how you find how much. First, find out the total face value of all 3 policies, or all your policies. If you only have 2 policies, for this one, we're going to find out for all 3 of them. Okay, so I'm going to take, now when I write out millions, I skip the zeros and I just write it, I put a decimal point and make it millions. Okay, so step 1, I'm going to take Company A has $5.9 million. Okay, so $5.9 million plus Company B, $4.425 million. And Company C has $1.475 million. So how much coverage do I have over on my company? What's the total? Is it 11.9? 11.9? 11.9? 11.8. $11.8 million. Okay, so once I did step 1, I found the total face value. That's what I have, $11.8 million. Step 2, determine the percentage or the fraction that each company was going to have to pay. Well, company A is going to have to pay, their fraction is 5.9 over 11.8. Okay, because they have a $5.9 million policy, and the total is $11.8 million. So their fraction reduces to, I believe, 50%, or 1/2. Okay? What about company B? They have 4.425 over 11.8. You can write that into the fraction, just have your calculator reduce it if you want. Or you can divide both of them by 4, I think. No. Yeah, divide both by 4. Take a calculator, take 4.425 divided by 4 is going to give you 1.105.
You put it in as a fraction, so it gives it for you.
Should.
It's a syntax error.
I got mine.
4.425 divided by 11.8.
It'd be like,
Reduce the fraction.
375. Right, smarty pants.
3/8.
I'm not looking forward to this because I hate fractions.
You can do percent as well. You want to do 50%, just make sure you don't round. 3/8, you can do 37.5%. Okay, and the last one, company C, 1.475 million over 11.8. What do you get as a fraction? I believe it should be. I should be able to figure that out.
yeah, I just add them together.
Yeah, what's going to give me half? It's going to be 1/8. Because 1/8 and 3/8 gives me 4/8, which is a half. Half and a half gives me 1. So there it is. So that, I believe, is, what is 1/8? As a percent, 18 point, no, 12.5. Is that right? So you can use fractions or you can use the percentage. I don't mind. Just don't round your percent if you have to. Okay, so step 2, we're done. We found the percentage that each company has of the entire face value of the policy. Step 3, multiply the amount of the loss by each percentage found in step 2 to determine the amount paid by each insurance company. So what's the amount of my loss? $1.8 million.
Well, there's more steps.
So step 3, this is just to find out how much, what portion they have to pay. I multiply each of these by 1.8 million.
Why?
That's step 3.
Yep, that's step 3.
Well, I get that, but oh, never mind. I see it.
See it?
I was looking for the number.
Okay, so how much is, I think this company's gonna, half of 1.8 is 900,000, so 0.9 million. Okay, this company, I believe, is gonna pay, what was it? What is it? 675. I'm gonna use a decimal per million. 0.675 million. So I can't fit a whole number in there. And the last one is gonna pay 3.25. 0.
0.225.
Where'd you get 1.8 million?
Up at the top. The loss of
No, it should be 3.25.
It's
No.
1.8.
Million. Oh, yeah, put it in there. I'll write this bigger so you guys can see it. 0.9 million for company A is what they're going to pay. This one's going to pay 0.675 million. And this company C is going to pay 0.225 million. Questions? So I'm going to get 3 different checks for 1.8. They're going to add up to $1.8 million because that was the loss of the fire or whatever I had. Okay, I'm going to get company A, whether it be whoever it be. State Farm's going to send me a $900,000 check. Company B is going to send me a $675,000 check, and Company C is going to send me a $225,000 check. Okay.
Get like another insurance company to like cover, even though you're not going to get them.
Right. You got to remember you got to pay for this.
Yeah, I know.
You got to pay premiums. I mean, this isn't free. This company's paying, especially after this claim, they're paying a hefty price.
What are you dividing the 1.8 million by, the 50% and stuff?
I'm multiplying 1.8 times 50%, or if I would have 1.8 times 37. What?
I hate people.
We're doing what?
Like having like a fourth insurance company, even though you're paying for it, and then something happens, like then say like they give you an extra money that you don't even need to send it.
Yeah, I mean, what happens a lot of times is companies will get an estimate of how much it costs to fix it. They'll get the checks and they'll just find somebody else to do it that does it cheaper, and they'll keep the money. So you can't get in trouble for doing that.
We do that with cars all the time.
Yeah, people do that with cars all the time. Like, for instance, they'll go to a car dealership and see how much it's going to cost to fix it,
Get an estimate.
and they get a humongous estimate, and then they go to their buddy, and their buddy fixes it, and they cost the check. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Well, everybody looks at the estimate is gone. There's like $1,000 less.
Yes.
He gets a lot of money.
All right, then we got to get through this example, okay, because this is the last one. This is the tough one. This one has both things we've talked about today all in one. The coinsurance clause and multiple carriers. So we have a very large company that is not meeting the coinsurance clause, so we have to figure out what percentage, and then there's multiple carriers, so you have another percentage. So we're combining both problems we just did into one mega problem.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's do it.
We don't have time.
All right, Apartment Solution Warehouse
We don't have time.
has a replacement cost of $2 million and is insured under an 80% coinsurance clause for $1.2 million. So they're not they don't have enough insurance to cover 80% of their $2 million building. Okay? So the insurance consists of these are the two companies, an $800,000 policy with Company A and a $400,000 policy Company B. If the warehouse suffers a $200,000 loss, find the following. A, find the part of any loss that is covered. Okay? So basically what it's saying is find the coinsurance. Okay? The companies aren't going to cover the entire $200,000 because you don't have enough insurance to cover your $2 million. Okay? So we have to do that formula that we did way in the beginning. Okay? So the amount that they're going to cover is going to be what? How do I find that? Take your amount of loss, $200,000. I'm just getting this from that formula on the first page. Times, okay, I take the face value of my policy. I have $1.2 million. You can put that all in, or you can put $1.2 million. Okay, since this one's written in thousands, just make sure they're all the same. This either has to be 0.2, 1.2, and then whatever this is, or they all have to have zeros. Make sure they're all the same. Then, times 80% of the replacement cost of my building, $2 million. Okay, so I get $200,000 times I think that comes out to 1.6 million, or this one right here is 1,600,000. So 1.2 divided by 1.6 gives you what? What percentage?
75.
What is it?
75%.
75%? 0.75? So take 0.75 multiplied by 200,000. $150,000. So the company said because of the coinsurance clause, you're only going to get $150,000 of the $200,000 damage.
minutes.
Now, part B, the amount of loss the insurance companies will pay.
We don't have to find out.
Now, I know that they're going to pay $150,000, but I have to find out how much of that $150,000 Company A and Company B are going to pay. So I have to figure out, okay, I have an insurance policy of $1.2 million. One of them has $800,000. Company A has $800,000. Okay, Company B has $400,000. So I take my $800,000, this is Company A, and divide it by my total, $1.2 million or $1,200,000. Okay, and what do you get? Over 12? Yeah. These are all going to cancel, and you're left with 8 over 12, which is 2/3. Okay, or 0.6666 repeating. Okay, and Company B, okay, is going to be 400,000 over 1.2, which is 1/3. So Company A is going to pay 2/3 of the 150,000. Company B is going to pay 1/3. Okay, make sure you guys don't leave. I know the bell's going to ring. I have a smaller homework assignment for you. Okay, just to work on this stuff.
For
So you're going
real?
to take this and multiply it by your 150 that you found here, and take this and multiply it by your 150. Okay, and you're going to get your answer. I'll finish this thing tomorrow. If you guys can finish it, that's fine. Your